And every now and then I'll have those limiting beliefs that are like, yeah, you see her doing it, but don't think you can do all that. Like, you might be able to get a little something, but you're not going to be able to do what she's doing. Hey girl, welcome back to my channel. My name is Trinity. If you're new here, today we're going to be discussing how to become your dream self, your ideal self in this present moment. Not 5 years from now, not 10 years from now, not when you feel like you have all the stuff that you want in life, but how can you become that person today? If you're interested in hearing all of my tips and tricks, just keep on watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, especially if this is not your first time here, and let's get into it. So the first thing that I suggest that you do is to get a piece of paper and a pen and write down who you want to be. Like I said, we're not talking 5 years from now, we're not talking 10 years from now, we're talking about just your highest self, period. And the reason why you don't want to put a time frame on it is because that will just train your mind to think that you can only be that person in that amount of time and that you can't do it right now, when really you can do it right now. Now, the first time I sat down and did this exercise, I did put a time on it. I said, who do I want to be in the next 5 years? Who do I want to be in the next 10 years? And I wrote all that stuff down. Then I said to myself, some of this stuff is stuff that I can do right now. Like, these are character traits. This is like energy that I can channel right now. Now, while some of the stuff was stuff that I cannot afford right now, like, you know, I wrote down the type of car I want to drive, the type of house I want to live in, the type of things that I want to own. That stuff I might not be able to have right now, but the things that are very important, which are the character traits, the energies, the personalities, that is stuff that you can actually incorporate into your life right now. So yes, write it all down. Write down the luxury things that you want to own. Write down, you know, the nice car that you want to drive, the nice house that you want to have. Write down all the details. Every detail you can think of, write it down. But really make sure you're focusing on the character traits of that person that you want to be. How do you want to dress? How do you want to speak? Who do you want to hang out with? What type of people do you want to surround yourself with? What kind of men do you want to date? What kind of men do you want to be married to? What places do you want to frequent? These are all things that you can start practicing right now. I feel like sometimes we go through life aimlessly because we don't have a clear idea of what we want and who we want to be. So we're kind of just taking a little bit of any and everything that's thrown at us, when really our ideal self would not even accept half of the stuff that we're accepting right now. And I'll even go as far as to say that if you just have thoughts floating around in your mind and you don't have it on paper, you're still going through life aimlessly. Like, you can think you have an idea, but until you put it on paper, I just believe that it's not even really a goal. It's not even really a dream. And I feel that way because in my personal experience, if I don't write stuff down and I just have a lot of thoughts just like going and going and going, my mind becomes really cluttered and I get really overwhelmed. And sometimes there are things up there that I don't even realize are up there until I'm writing them out. So as I sat down and I was writing my list of things that make up the person that I want to be, certain stuff just started flowing. And I really wasn't even thinking. It was kind of just coming out as I was writing. So I know that it was already up there. I just wasn't aware of it because I never really gave myself the chance to sit down and let it all come out and to really organize it all. So after you figure out what your dream self, what your ideal self actually looks like, you want to start being intentional about everything in your life. And this is where it gets a little tricky. I think it's safe to say that I was a very go with the flow type of person. As much as I hate to admit that, I want to say I was a go with the flow type of person because I never really had a clear understanding or a clear idea of what I wanted and what I didn't want. I never knew both things at the same time. It was always one or the other, especially when it came to like dating. And the problem with this is when you don't have a clear understanding of what you do and don't want, you start accepting a little bit of any and everything that is being thrown at you. And I heard this quote a few years ago. I don't remember who said it. Someone said that when you eat from everyone's table, that's how you get sick. You don't want to be eating from everybody's table. There are certain tables that you should allow yourself to sit at, and some you should be like, I can't be sitting here. And that's not to say that, matter of fact, yes it is. I was about to say that's not even to say that you think you're too good to be in certain places, because honestly I feel like sometimes you should think you're too good to be in certain places. Like, certain things just don't deserve your energy. Certain things just don't deserve you. Certain people just don't deserve your energy or deserve you. And you have to be confident enough to stand in that. You should know what you want, who you want, and who you are at all times. And then once you know those things, you want to move accordingly. And that's where being intentional comes into play. So since I started with the dating example, we're just going to go with dating for right now. I started dating intentionally a few years ago when I was really trying to get a strong sense of self. And I was really trying to like build my confidence and just do better in relationships and being single. I noticed that because I didn't really know who I was as an individual, I was taking a little bit of everything. So as I started to learn more about myself, I started to discover what I wanted and what I didn't want, and what I needed and what I didn't need. And this helped me out a whole lot, because then life just starts to filter out people for me. But how did that happen? Once I realized what I wanted and what I didn't want and what I needed and what I didn't need, I started moving accordingly. I started showing up as a person who would attract those things that I wanted, who would attract those things that I needed. And I was very intentional about who I allowed in my space after that. But in addition to me being intentional about who I was allowing into my space, life, like I said, was filtering people out for me. There were certain people who wouldn't even approach me because I didn't even give off the vibes that I would accept what they had to offer. I've had guys who have taken so long to actually approach me. Like, they would follow me on Instagram for a long time, but they wouldn't actually say anything until like years later, because they said that they felt like I was out of their league or something like that. Now, when a man says that, believe him, okay? That's all I'm gonna say. But anyway, they just didn't even feel like they could approach me because of the energy that I was giving off. And while some people might say, oh, that means that you were giving standoffish or you were giving like stuck up vibes, you know, if that's what you want to call it, okay. I know I'm not stuck up. I know I'm not like unapproachable. But I also do know that I do give off a certain aura. Like, you can't come over here with a bunch of nonsense and BS. You just can't. Like, every now and then you might get a few like trickle in and try to play a little bit of games, but I don't really give off play with me. That's just, I don't know, that's how I feel. So I started being intentional about who I was dating. I was intentional about who I was surrounding myself with as far as like friends. I have had people in the past really drain me, and that's not to say that they were bad friends, but I feel like I have had a lot of friendships that were very one-sided. Like, I feel like people got a lot out of me, but I didn't really get a lot out of people that I was friends with. And this is actually something that I just recently noticed, like within the last week, because I was just having this conversation with someone yesterday. But I feel like now I'm surrounded by so many people who I can have mutually beneficial relationships with. And I'm really not interested in being friends with people who only take from me and don't really give. And even if you do give, like if it's not anywhere near as much as I'm giving, I don't really want to be a part of it. And that's fine. That's not to say that like it's a beef or people are cut off, because that's not even that. Like, there are some people who I will still hang out with every now and then. You know, we can talk on the phone every now and then, but do we need to speak every single day? Like, do I really want to be drained of my energy all the time? No, I don't. And that's fine. Like, one thing I really learned how to do was how to compartmentalize my friends, or compartmentalize everybody in my life, honestly. Certain people are for certain things, and everything is not for everybody. That's probably one of the most valuable lessons that I have learned. And I am not for everybody. There are certain men that my higher self would not ever even look at twice. There are certain people who my higher self would not hang around. There are certain activities that my higher self would not engage in. And that's how I'm moving right now. Like, once you take note of that, you really don't have any other choice but to abide by that and to start living in that. Being intentional is literally showing up as that person, taking those character traits and putting them into your life in that moment. So, like, aside from relationships, one thing I had written down about the person who I want to be is that she does not curse as much as I do right now. Now, I have gotten a lot better since I made this list and I started being intentional about everything. I have gotten a whole lot better. But I noticed that I did not want to be the type of person who was cursing all the time for no reason. And now I know that I'm doing a lot better, because now when I hear certain people talking and I hear one or two curse words, I'm automatically like, oh my God, like why do you have to talk like that? And it just makes me think like, dang, is this what people was thinking about me when I was talking? Like I said, there are certain things that I just won't do now that I have a clear understanding of the person God has really called me to be, and you know, the person that I want to be. And I'm gonna say both, because I'm working on making my desires for myself line up with who God wants me to be, because they're not always in alignment. And the whole thing about cursing brings me to the next point. You want to start taking accountability for your actions. And that simply means figure out what you don't like about yourself and your life and change it. So like I said, one thing I didn't like about myself was how much I used to curse. I didn't really like my vocabulary. So I slowly started to stop cursing as much. I do it every now and then, and I know some people might not like the fact that I'm admitting down here, but it's the truth. The truth shall set you free. I don't like how much I procrastinate. I've been making a conscious effort to stop procrastinating as much as I do. I heard someone say recently that we procrastinate because we don't feel prepared for whatever it is we're about to do. So I started becoming more organized, planning ahead for every task that I have so that I can feel prepared in the moments where it's time for me to start whatever that task is. And it has been helping me tremendously. I've also been like taking on little tasks, well, not even little tasks. I've been taking on like big tasks that really require me to be organized and to not procrastinate. Like my mom's bridal shower and my sister's bridal shower, they were a month apart. I took on the task of planning both of them, and because they were 30 days apart, I had to kind of plan both of them at the same time, and the only way I could afford that and really execute that the way I wanted to was to plan ahead and to be organized. And the interesting thing about that, I noticed this once they both were over, is that practicing those habits for those two events actually allowed it to spill over into other areas of my life. So for the bridal showers, I was planning out everything in advance. I had a spreadsheet of everything that I needed for both with the cost of everything. I was ordering stuff on a schedule. You know, I was very prepared for those things. So then when it came to like my content and stuff, I started being more organized with that, and I started planning ahead with that. Now I have like a calendar of the different content that I'm gonna make for each month, when I'm gonna record it, when I'm gonna edit it, when it's gonna go up. Like, I'm just very organized in a lot of other areas of my life now. I'm really good at just winging stuff, and I'm also really good at working under pressure. But just because you're good at doing something, that doesn't mean that you should do it. I should not be working under pressure all the time. Like, I don't have to do it just because I can. And I realized that I didn't like that about myself, so I changed it. Because I knew that my ideal self, my higher self, my best self was not a procrastinator. She's very organized, she gets her stuff done, she plans and she executes well. And I just wanted to start becoming that person now instead of waiting till years from now. Because honestly, a lot of the character traits that you're going to come up with for your ideal self are going to be things that actually take time for you to adapt. It's not stuff that's just going to happen overnight, most of it. Because even like the cursing, like, I'm still working on that, and this has been going on for like months. Like, I've been working on this for months. The procrastination thing, I still procrastinate. It's not as bad as it used to be, but you know, I started working on that months ago, and I'm still doing it. So, you know, all this stuff takes time. You will be doing yourself a disservice to wait years from now until you have a certain amount of money, until you have, you know, certain things that you really want, in order for you to start working on those character traits. Because you can have all the things can come. The things gonna come when God is ready for them to come, but the character traits, they not gonna just fall in your lap. Like, you gotta work on that stuff now so that you can be prepared when you get to that point. And then this also goes with accountability. You wanna make sure that you are forgiving yourself for things that you have done that your higher self would not do. Forgive yourself for that. Forgive people who have done stuff to you that your higher self would not have accepted. You have to be willing to let go of hurt and resentment and guilt. Like, all those things, you have to be able to let go of them and change. Therapy helps with this a lot. I've been in therapy for 3 years now. And lastly, you want to identify all of your limiting beliefs and get rid of them for good. I used to have so many limiting beliefs that I was not even aware of. That's the thing, like, they kind of sneak up on you, and they kind of like hide in cracks and in places where you won't even really recognize them for what they are. If you don't know what a limiting belief is, it is a thought or state of mind that you think is the absolute truth that stops you from doing certain things. So one limiting belief that I had was that I could not be with a faithful, successful man. Like, I literally used to say that out loud. I used to say I didn't want to be with a man who had a certain amount of money. I didn't want to be with a man who had any type of status, because I just felt like they would never be faithful to me. And while it's true that it might be harder for them to be faithful, I guess, that's not to say that it's not possible to have both. You can very much so have a man who is successful, has a good career, good financially, who treats you well. But I feel like you have to get rid of that limiting belief in order to even be able to receive that kind of thing. I actually feel like a lot of women feel that way. A lot of women settle for men who don't really bring anything into their lives because they feel like they're better off dealing with a man who really has nothing to offer, because somebody who does have something to offer would never even look her way or treat her the way she wants to be treated. So it's kind of like you're telling yourself you don't even deserve to have that good thing that you really want. And then the same thing goes for money. I used to think that there was a cap on how much money I could make. I used to think that certain things just weren't attainable for me for some strange reason. I don't even know what those reasons were, but I just felt like I can't have that. Although I've seen other people with it, but for some strange reason, it just wasn't something that I could do. And even now, like with YouTube, I see certain girls who are really get into it from doing YouTube. And every now and then I'll have those limiting beliefs that are like, yeah, you see her doing it, but don't think you can do all that. Like, you might be able to get a little something, but you're not going to be able to do what she's doing. You're not going to be able to do what he's doing. And why not? And that's the thing with the limiting beliefs. Like, when they come, you have to be able to flip that switch and be like, no, that's not true. I can do this. I can live this way. I can have this. I can have this type of man. I can have this type of family. I can live in this type of house. I can drive this type of car. And that's another thing. I said this on TikTok before. I never had a dream car because I honestly never really saw myself being able to drive a luxury car. I don't know why. I think I said in the TikTok, like, I feel like it probably came from the fact that where I live, like I live in Maryland, if y'all didn't know, you don't really see a lot of like luxury cars. Like, it's not an everyday thing. If you see one, you're like, wow, that's a nice car, but it's like so weird. Like, it's still strange to see where I live. So you never really see yourself in that because that's not something that you see all the time. So because I wasn't seeing it all the time, I told myself that that wasn't something that I could have. Well, actually, I wasn't even telling myself that I couldn't have it. I just wasn't seeing it for myself. Like, it just wasn't a thought. So once I realized that that's what was going on, because somebody asked me, like, what's your dream car? And I was like, I don't have one. I never really thought about it. And she was like, why not? And I was just like, I don't know. I'm not into that kind of stuff, so I don't really care. Like, I never really think about the material things that I'm going to get when I have a certain amount of money. Like, I never think about it. And she was like, well, I mean, that's still a good thing to have because you still want to have something to work toward. And then I started thinking about it like, I don't have a dream car because I never see them. So I have to start, because they're not around me, I have to start putting them around me so that I can see myself in them, if that makes sense. So I went on Pinterest. I had no idea what my dream car was because I knew nothing about cars because I never saw really nice cars. So I had to educate myself and I had to just start going on Pinterest, looking at luxury cars. I think that's what I typed in, like luxury cars. And I just kept scrolling and I would pin the ones that I like. And I noticed that there was this one car that kept popping up. I'm gonna put it on the screen. I didn't even realize that I was pinning the same car every time because I was doing this like over the course of some days. And I just realized like, this must be my dream car. Like, well, for now, this is my dream car. So now I'm thinking about that, like when I'm working, like when I'm making my content, when I'm going to do lashes every day, I'm thinking about these goals that I used to think were unattainable for me. And it actually makes me show up even more. It makes me show up even better because I'm actually working towards something. And that's not even to say that you have to be working toward a material thing in order for you to really show up. But now I have like actual like tangible goals in mind. Sometimes we're working on character traits and like the type of person that we want to be, but when you have like actual tangible goals, you can actually check those off your list. So I was saying all that to say, you have to identify what your limiting beliefs are. What are the things that are keeping you from setting goals? What are the things that are keeping you from accomplishing those goals? Figure them out and get rid of them. They gotta go. So to sum it all up, figure out who you want to be, figure out what you want, figure out the type of life that you want to live. Be very detailed, y'all, when y'all are writing this stuff down. Like, I have everything written down. Like, I can see it to a T. I really like sat there, closed my eyes and thought, like, what does my life look like at this ideal point? Like, I can't put a time on it, but when I am my higher self, what does she look like? What does her life look like? What does her attitude look like? How does she dress? How does she speak? Who does she hang with? Who is she in a relationship with? Who is she married to? Or what type of men does she like to date? What type of places does she like to go? I was writing all that stuff down. How does she wear her hair? How do you smell on a daily basis? Like, I'm writing all that down. What does my daily routine look like? So y'all need to figure all that out, start being intentional and showing up as that person, and then figure out what your limiting beliefs are, figure out what things are stopping you from actually becoming that person, and get rid of those limiting beliefs. And then next thing you know, you're just gonna start attracting all the things that you want. Like, I'm telling you, it works. I mean, y'all might look at me like, well, girl, you saying it works, but you don't have such and such. I have certain things that are not tangible. That's the key. I have the things that are intangible. And I'm fine with that. Like, I can find joy in that because I know that those tangible things are going to come. So that's all I have to say. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If y'all want more videos like this, just let me know. Comment down below if you have any tips that you would like to share, or if this video has helped you at all, just let me know how in the comments. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye.